Hey, what's up, guys? Johnny Riche here. We're hanging out at the Team Throttle Monster garage with full-time owner and a part-time monster truck driver, Mr. Paul Jensen. Paul, good to see you.
Good to see you, Johnny.
Let's jump right into this, man. I think there's a lot of our fans and a lot of people that want to know what it takes, right, to get into this world. As a guy that's been doing it for as long as you have, and you've been around the sport for as long as you have, tell us, how did you get involved? And then how long have you been doing this total?
So I got involved in monster trucks. A guy by the name of Craig Christensen, my stepdad, married my mom. And so I started actually building monster trucks first. And that's what I enjoyed doing, was designing chassis and helping him build those. And we probably built somewhere around 30 chassis together here in the United States and in Australia. And then I started driving probably 2002. So it's been about 22, 23 years since I first drove a monster truck. So I drove with my stepdad, went to Australia 2 or 3 times a year for about 6, 7 years. Drove over there, had a lot of fun with it. And it kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, well, I'd like to have a family and a house and that sort of thing. So like, okay, I got to slow down on monster trucks a little bit, even though it was a lot of fun. And
you had to grow up a little bit.
Had to grow up a little bit. Yes,
yeah, okay.
Had to grow up a little bit and, take some responsibility. Sure. And couldn't be traveling all the time with a wife and had one kid and one on the way. So I started a construction company and we got that going and it went really well. Got to the point where we made enough money that we could build a monster truck. And so I built the first one, and then my brother Mike, he wanted to team up and have a truck also. So we built a second one, and then my cousin Zach wanted a monster truck. And so we built a third one and then a fourth, and then Too Tall came along, David Olfert, and he wanted to run with us. So then we built 2 more, because they have to travel in pairs. And, now we're up to 9 monster trucks and we're just loving it. But I mean, to get into this business, and especially to own monster trucks, you have to be a little bit crazy because, it's not something that, is going to be, make you an overnight millionaire or anything like that. There's a lot of years that we've spent more money than we've made on monster trucks, building the team and growing the team, and that sort of thing. So, and monster trucks are a lot like gambling. I tell people that all the time. You go out there and you know you're going to spend a bunch of money. You don't know how much, and every now and then you win. So
you get a little of that back.
That's right. Get a little back.
So with that, you talk about the beginning, building 30 chassis with your stepdad. What does that take? I mean, you saw you go down to the local monster truck store and buy parts. So where does that begin? Where does the design start? And then how do you do it? Like, how does it happen?
So we had a real, we were on a shoestring budget. So we had a pipe bender built out of a garbage truck ram, and, it didn't have any degrees on it. So, I've got a right triangle calculator on my phone and some different things. I'm fairly decent at geometry. And at the time we were building, each chassis was different. So we were building them for a guy in Australia, and he wanted all of the roll cages to fit specific bodies. So if it did get rolled over, it didn't totally demolish the body, was kind of the idea behind that. So literally we would just start with, we had our bottom frame rail design that was pretty much the same on all of them. So we could build that. But as far as the roll cage and everything from the bottom rail up was just designed on the fly. We'd
literally like on a napkin. You're like, maybe like this.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Everything was hand notched, and we would mock the body, temp the body up on there, and then start bending pipes. And
no way.
Built several of them that way. Yep.
So, you talk about that being how many years ago?
Yeah.
What is the evolution now, right? You see, we're in your shop. Yeah. You see these monster trucks, and you talk about, hand bending and doing that. Now, what is that evolution like from then to now? How much difference is there in the sport and in designing and building these?
So we still have one chassis that we built from, the ground up, and that's the last one. And we just took it out of service. It's outside in one of the trailers. So that kind of breaks my heart a little bit.
You had to retire it. You had to
That's
retire
right.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We had to retire it. And now it's, we either purchase chassis. We have quite a few Eddie Mica chassis. And
Eddie Mica. So tell me, that's what they do. They just build chassis specifically for monster trucks or other industries.
So Eddie Mica and Paul Cohen came up with a design for Monster Jam years ago, and that was the design that was called their in-house chassis. That's what they put under like all the Gravediggers and some of the other trucks. And Monster Jam evolved into Carroll Racing Development chassis, which are basically a monster truck chassis in a box, right? You get the whole kit. Everything's bent and notched and laser engraved with a number. You get a computer program. You hover over whatever pipe you're wanting to install. It tells you the number. You go find the pipe. You plug it in place. It's already notched, ready to go, and you just weld it in place.
That is like an adult Lego set. Really,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's like an adult, Lego set, Rector set, whatever.
Yeah.
But so the Eddie Mica chassis that we have, Eddie welds them all up, and so when we get those, they're complete. And then the CRD chassis that we have, we weld up ourselves. But a couple days of welding, and you can have a whole chassis put together with a CRD versus take a couple weeks to hand bend and weld one up.
Sure. So they come, like you said, you've retired the one. Now it's kind of to a science where how long will a chassis last under a machine? I mean, let's say Jurassic Attack, for instance. How long does that chassis? How long will it stay in rotation to be able to compete?
I mean, there's chassis out there that are 15, 20 years old. At the level we're running at Monster Jam, our team is cycling our chassis out after 5 years. Still a good chassis. We can still sell it to somebody who wants to, have a nice piece and go race. But that's where our comfort level's at with us doing backflips and all that kind of stuff. Eventually they're going to get fatigued, and when they start cracking and breaking apart, we don't want to. We don't want to deal with that, having to fix them and all that kind of stuff.
Especially at the level of Monster Jam. And let's talk a little bit about that dynamic, Paul. Monster Jam, I tell people, is kind of the NFL of monster trucks, right? Yeah. It is the biggest, baddest event series in the world. Yep. You've got 2 different tours that are done. So talk a little bit about Monster Jam and, kind of the aspiration of these independents that are looking to get into Monster Jam. And then, having as many trucks as you do, and then the dynamic of the tour series and the stadium series. Talk a little bit about that.
So when Mike and I first started our team, Monster Jam is very particular about who runs for them. They want the best of the best. And so that was kind of our goal. We had to go out and prove ourselves for the first few years that, hey, we can run trucks. We can, not only can we drive them, but we have nice equipment. We have spare parts. We're going to keep them together to, perform all the elements at a monster truck show.
And be competitive, right?
And be competitive, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing is making every element, If you go out there and you break during racing and you don't have it back for the rest of the show, that's kind of a black eye, And so we, built up our team. Mike and I did our first Monster Jam Stadium show with our team in 2018 at NRG Stadium in Houston. We did that show, and then the next year, I don't think we might have done a couple of shows for them, but even after that, it took a couple more years to get in with Monster Jam. Like the old saying from Talladega Nights, if you're not first, you're last. If you're not running for Monster Jam, that's the top of our game. That's where we want to be. So
talk a little bit about, Monster Jam. Now they have their own trucks that are Monster Jam trucks. They're like their own. And then you've got other, maybe organizations like Team Throttle Monster that are independent.
Yeah.
But you also, but then you're driving for Monster Jam, but they have their own trucks. correct? Talk a little bit about kind of that dynamic where they've got their own stuff and you're kind of competing against that, and what goes into that.
So every Monster Jam show that you see, half of the trucks are owned by Monster Jam and half of them are an independent like myself. So with 3 arena tours and 2 stadium tours, that means there's 24 Monster Jam owned trucks and 24 independent trucks. We are 6 of those 24. So we're 25% of all the independents that run for Monster Jam. You know, it's kind of an exclusive club, if you will. You know, there's not, 24 people in the whole world get to say they run their own truck at Monster Jam.
And you have 6 of them.
And I have 6 of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's, I think, a testament to, like you said, man, what goes into it, right? It's the guys at the shop. It's the travel. It's the, man, this thing is not like you just wake up on Thursday and you get to drive a monster truck on Saturday. It's a year-long process. I mean, there's really no breaks. Right. Talk a little bit about the season and what goes into everything from the guys working at the shop to finally being able to compete on a Saturday. What's that like? Yeah,
well, a lot of people ask me, how do you do it? How do you run 8 trucks all year round? And the truthful answer is, without my brother Mike, I wouldn't even attempt it, because he does so much as far as hiring the drivers, training the drivers, making sure the trucks stay together. Beginning of January, he jumps in a semi truck and a motorhome and they head out, and he won't be back home until the middle of May. So
on the road.
Yep, on the road. So, this is not a job for the faint of heart. You really, you're
in it.
Yeah, you have to love monster trucks to want to do it. And it's a grueling process. I mean, they head out and they've been here for 2 months trying to get these trucks prepared for the Monster Jam season. They head out the beginning of January. They'll unload the trucks in San Diego at a stadium, and they still have to put all the tires on, check everything, go through getting safety certifications at each event. And then they'll go and they'll do the show, and they'll break a bunch of stuff. They'll do a backflip, blow the body off, whatever happens. Okay. Now they've got to pack up in that trailer, take all the big tires off, put the little tires on, pack everything up in the trailer, and then they head to the next event. Then they have to wash everything. That's a whole day. Then they have to fix everything. Then they have to get everything ready. And sometimes it's just by the skin of your teeth.
You're barely making the show.
You're barely making the show, and it's that over and over and over every single week. And so, I tip my hat to those guys. Even when I was, on stadium tour with my brother, he pretty much took care of all that. And I was able to fly in and fly home and do my other real job here at home.
Sure. Mike's the man.
Yeah, he is.
There's a lot that goes into it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and you need a guy like
lot.
Mike, because Mike, in our conversations and being lucky enough to be a part of the Monster Truck Militia Tour, and that's just a little piece of what you guys do.
Yeah.
Mike is a hard-nosed guy. He kind of, he rules with an iron fist, but you kind of have to, right? Yeah. When there's that much on the line and you're getting to this point where you're competing in the biggest organization in the world, there's no messing around, right? It's a job. Right. It's not like playtime. It's a job.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and he has to corral all these guys. They'll be in our arena tour has 4 trucks on that tour. And so you have all these single guys out on an arena tour, and he's trying to make sure they get their job done.
Get in bed by 10 o'clock, eat their breakfast, do the things.
Yeah. And they want to go meet girls and have a life too.
Live the life of a monster truck driver.
That's right. Sure. Yeah. So
Paul, we were talking about the chassis, and the modifications that, you were doing way back in the day to the evolution of where they are at now.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can go put big tires on a truck, get a lift, and drive that thing around. But monster trucks are special because of not only the power, but also tell us a little bit about how they're able to do what they do, right? A guy takes a Ford, and puts tires in it. He boom, he's blowing everything out of that thing, and it's a mess. Yeah. But you guys are flying through the air, doing unbelievable tricks and stunts. Yeah. How are they able to do that?
So a monster truck, I like to look at a monster truck like a heavy-duty tractor with a lot of horsepower. We have hydraulic steering, and a lot of these things, come off of tractors And the original design for the corners that are on our truck. So basically the champagne, the knuckle, the planetary, all of those pieces originally came off of like a 1960s. It's a Chrysler MLT-6CH military forklift. And we've evolved from that. There's only one piece from the original forklifts that we still use. Everything else now is aftermarket, because we've had to build them bigger and stronger to withstand what we're doing with them. I mean, some of these trucks, we're jumping 30, 40 feet in the air, doing backflips, landing on the roll cage, all that. So the geometry also of the roll cage is very important, because when you have 12,000 pounds landing on one pipe, you have to make sure that pipe's not going to crush or anything like that. So we've, the design we have now, and, Monster Jam's kind of been the one headlining all of the safety features and things like that. They're really safe. I've never been in a wreck in a monster truck that I thought, okay, that could have went really bad. Yeah, you do get banged up. You feel like you've been in a car wreck every weekend most of the time, but they're extremely safe. Yeah.
And to kind of talk about the safety aspect, we understand, you see these machines and the noise and the vibration when you're there and you're sitting in the stands and you hear it and you feel it. There's this kind of scary factor, like, at any time something crazy could happen. But the safety is such a huge portion of monster trucks. You've got the safety measures. Talk a little bit about the safety measures. I know before an event, when we do our monster truck militia tour, we discuss that safety precaution. Talk a little bit about the safety aspect, from start to finish when you're at one of these events.
So we have what's called a remote ignition interrupter. And basically what that is that's a box that we have in the truck, and there's handheld remotes that the safety officials have. And at any point in time, they can cut the ignition from our truck. Monster trucks, we have a ton of rotating mass. Our tires and rims, there's probably 5,000 pounds of the monster truck is rotating mass. So if a truck gets shut off, even if something happened and the driver can't reach the brake pedal, broke the brake pedal off, something like that, the truck, all on its own will come to a stop fairly quick.
We've seen it firsthand where that happens, and it just, it goes like 2 feet and it's stopped. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of machine.
They jump really high and it looks like they're going super fast because they're making a lot of noise, but speed is not something that monster trucks achieve. Most of these arenas and things like that, we get going 25, 30 mile an hour, and then stadiums 40, 45, 50 maybe if it's a really long track. We have every seat is custom built to the driver. So when you sit in your seat, it snugs to your hips and your shoulders, and we have shoulder restraints that come around so that you can only move a little bit. And then our helmet has a restraint also that you push your helmet into. We have 3-layer fire suits. In case of a fire, we have a neck restraint. It's basically like a carbon fiber backpack you put on that tethers to your helmet, so your helmet can only move just a little bit. So that being said, the only problem that causes is you have this head restraint coming around here. You can't move your head. You can't turn your head. So if you want to see what's around the corner, you turn the corner,
Turn the corner.
Yeah. And so that makes it kind of fun to navigate. People have asked, is it scary to drive a monster truck? And if you get scared driving a monster truck, something bad's going to happen. You're going to freeze up. You're going to crash. You're going to, roll over, something like that. There's so much going on in that cab. With the in-cab cameras and stuff we have now, you can kind of see a lot of that. But, you have the throttle pedal, you have the brake pedal, you have the steering wheel, you have the rear steering on a toggle switch, and you're shifting gears. And it's just, you're trying to anticipate what's going to happen when you land so that you can react to that. And sometimes,
that's a lot.
Yeah, sometimes it works
that's
out.
A lot.
Sometimes it doesn't work out so well. I'm pretty good at crashes, but
we've seen.
And the fire systems, and next year they're testing fire systems right now that are automatic. The ones we have now, you have to pull the pin, and then we have nozzles throughout the truck that'll put out fires and things like that. So they're they've come a long way. When I first started driving monster trucks, I mean, I had a little foam pad neck roll and basically a Corbeau boat seat is what I had. No shoulder restraints. I mean, there was one time that I jumped a van stack and I landed on the side and my neck went whack. And then I landed on the other side and my neck went whack. And I'm like, okay, I'm driving to the trailer. You know,
That's it.
yeah. You walk around like this until Thursday, and then Friday you
sort of loose up a little bit.
Friday you get into a show, you make your first jump and stretch it back out, and you're good for the weekend. But yeah.
So Paul, you crawl inside this thing. You got your safety suit on, your gloves, your helmet. Tell us about really the experience on your body when you're inside this thing, hitting those jumps, doing the massive tricks and the stunts. Tell us about what it does to your body.
So I think the experience on your body starts at the beginning of the week. You know, you're pushing around 800-pound tires and washing them and putting them on, and everything on a monster truck is heavy. So if you have to replace anything, you know, it wears you out.
You're lifting, you're moving.
So by the time you get to the event on the weekend, usually you feel like you've been lifting weights all week, you know. So when you get in the truck, and even to this day, you know, doing it for 22, 23 years, even at my age, if I sit in a monster truck and I fire that engine up, my heart just starts, you know. You know,
like
it's
a
time.
kid,
So,
like a kid.
Yeah,
So
you kind of forget about all of the muscle aches and pains and all of the stressful things you had to do to get the truck ready during the week, and it's, you know, that's what makes it worth it. But sometimes, you know, you with all the safety gear and the neck restraints and everything we have nowadays, it's really not that bad. You can get a little sore sometimes. One time I jumped my truck straight up in the air and landed on the tailgate, and my leg hit the corner aluminum edge on my seat, and that didn't feel too good. But for the most part, it's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago.
Oh, 20 years ago, it was
a different story.
It was a different story. You didn't know if you were going to be able to turn your head. Yeah. It was, you know, and even now, I guess, even though you're strapped in there, I mean, we have, you know, ratchets on each side of our safety belts. We have 7-point safety belts, and you ratchet those until it hurts, right? I mean, that's how tight you want it to be. And even though you're sitting still and it keeps you in one place, you're still jumping 40 feet in the air and you're still landing on the ground. Sure. So everything inside is still
getting jumbled up, and
it's still getting that impact. And you know, I think it's just kind of one of those things. You know, there's some people that can ride roller coasters and some people that can't. It's the same with monster trucks.
Paul, tell us a little bit about. We talked about the chassis. You talked a little bit about the transmission. Now, are all the trucks manual? Are there some automatic? Talk a little bit about the transmission in these monsters.
So, back when I first started driving monster trucks, we had turbo 400 transmissions, and they had automatic valve bodies. It was a 3-speed transmission, and basically it would run all the way to third gear, and then unless you slowed way down or came to a stop, it would just stay in third gear. They're kind of a manual automatic. In other words, we don't have a clutch or anything like that. We can go, you know, we only have 2 gears now. We run a 2-speed power glide, and you can shift between first and second without pushing a clutch or anything like that or letting off the throttle. It's not recommended to be in high gear in full throttle and then kick it down to first gear, obviously.
Sure.
But it's a pretty simple unit. I mean, a 64 Impala has a power glide transmission in it.
Really?
Yeah. So, but obviously these are, you know, NASCAR rated cases, and everything in them is a aftermarket racing performance part that allows them to, you know, withstand what a monster truck will do to them. And I think our transmissions are built for, in a drag car, it'll withstand 3,000 horsepower.
3,000.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what drives that horsepower. Are the engines all the same in every truck that we see here at your shop? Are the engines the same, or are they different? Do they vary?
They vary a little bit. As far as cubic inches, all of our engines are either a 540 cubic inch or 548 cubic inch. We run a standard deck block. There's some things that are different about our engines than Monster Jams or other people in the industry. We have motors that are specifically built for revving faster. We use those on our stadium tours. They'll typically.
Why would you do that?
In a stadium tour, typically you want to get up and go fast, especially with the tracks that we've been running the past couple years. Usually you're coming into a berm, and so there's a lot of quick turns, and then you want to be able to take off to the finish line. In the arenas, we like a little bit more torque.
They're a little smaller.
They're a little
bit more
smaller.
compact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as.
Yeah, basically the difference is you want to build more horsepower or more torque.
So let's talk a little bit about the torque and horsepower. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
Maybe some people that don't really know what. I mean, you're educating me every time we talk. Paul, tell us a little bit about the torque and the horsepower.
So it used to be, we used to run mechanical fuel injection. Basically what that means is we control how much fuel we're sending to the motor by a little brass, we call them pills, and they have a different size circle in them. What that does is if you put a bigger circle in, it sends more fuel back to the tank, makes the motor run leaner. If it's a smaller circle, it sends less fuel to the tank, makes the motor fatter. The reason you would want to send more fuel to the motor is if you're at a higher altitude. Lower altitudes, you're going to send, well, I take that back. I got that wrong. If you want to send, I'll just
start over. Yep. Yeah. Start over. Yep.
So if you're sending less fuel to the motor, it's at a higher altitude. There's less oxygen in the air. And so you can only efficiently burn a certain amount of fuel. If you go down to sea level, then you want to add fuel because there's more oxygen in the air, and you can burn more fuel, and it won't be as lean as if you left it at, like, say, 4,800 feet where we are here. If we tried running that same fuel mixture in Anaheim, we'd just melt the motor down. Gotcha. There wouldn't be enough fuel for the amount of oxygen going into the motor. Last year, we converted all the trucks over to electronic fuel injection. And basically, that allows the computer to learn the altitude that you're at. It usually takes about a half of an event for the system to learn where you're at and how much fuel it wants to put into the motor. And the advantage to fuel injection is it burns cleaner. And also, at every RPM, the computer can adjust. Where with a mechanical system, you can run high-speed lean-outs and things like that, but it's really not. It's not fine. It's not a fine-tuned system. That being said, with electronic fuel injection, we're trying some new things. We've been able to tune our motors to anywhere between 1,500 and 1,800 horsepower. We're trying some coil packs and different things to increase that. We're going to put a high-rise manifold on one of the trucks so that we can run 16 injectors so that we can tune each cylinder. The way our trucks are right now, it dumps all the fuel above the blower. So the fuel goes through the blower and just starts, sending it to different cylinders, but there's no real way to tune each cylinder. So some cylinders get more fuel than others. Typically in a big block Chevy, the front cylinders are the leanest, and it sends most of the fuel to the back.
What makes it different than just the average truck, the average fuel injection system or the average transmission? What makes it different? So
the original design of the block is a big block Chevy. So, your 1980s Chevrolet with a 454 in it is the same design of a block. Our blocks are aftermarket blocks, either a Merlin or a Brodix block is what we run. They have larger, they're a marine block so that you can run more water through them. The monster truck doesn't get a lot of speed. So we don't have a lot of air blowing through our radiator. So we've got to run more water through it and have electric fans to keep the motor cool. A unique thing about a monster truck engine is it's like a boat. The engine is in the truck backwards. So instead of just having an oil pump that drops straight down in a regular big block Chevy, we have to run a pickup tube to the opposite end of the motor because that's the front of the motor is the back of the motor in a monster truck. We run aftermarket. We run Cali's steel rods. We're one of the few teams that run steel rods. Most run aluminum rods. We have J&E pistons that are all aftermarket. We run Brodix 383 CNC ported 3 extra heads. So they're an all aluminum head. A regular big block Chevy would have a cast iron head. We run Jezel Pro Steel rockers. What that allows us to do is run an extreme amount of RPM. We can run 9,000, 9,500 RPM and not blow up our valve train. Those are all shaft rockers. We run an 871 blower, so it's blown and injected. We run them on straight methanol, so that's a little bit of upgrade from pump gas. That's basically the gist of. We run a Cali's Magnum crankshaft. You can buy a stock crankshaft for $300-400, and we're running the $3,500 version of that so that it doesn't break.
Doesn't break. Yeah. But talk about braking. How long does an engine last? You talk about the modification, everything that you're doing to them. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot that's going into them. That's extra. That's beefed up and more support and that. Tell us a little bit about how long does an engine last typically?
So we're currently running our engines to 30 hours, and then we're pulling them out, and then we get them refreshed or rebuilt. With that comes we put new pistons. We always put new pistons. Rebuild the rockers, brand new set of lifters. Those are the things that we change no matter what. Crankshafts, rods. Since we run a steel rod, we can run the steel rod basically indefinitely as long as it doesn't receive any damage. That's the big difference between a steel rod and an aluminum rod. Aluminum only has so many cycles and then it breaks. It just fatigues. That's how aluminum works. It only takes so many hits and then it's seen its life cycle. Steel has a slight drop when you first start using it, and then it flatlines. It stays the same strength for forever. And aluminum continues to get weaker and weaker and weaker.
So why would someone use aluminum versus steel? Is it cost? Is it manufacturing? Why would someone use aluminum?
So aluminum rods create a lot more cushion on the rod bearings. So, each time the engine cycles, the aluminum absorbs a lot of that impact. We run redline oil, 60 weight race, and that allows us to run a steel rod with that and still have an ample amount of cushion for our rod bearings, basically. That's in my opinion, it's the best oil in the world, and and we don't break rods. We don't, that 30 hours, we never roll rod bearings into our motor. We run it for the full 30 hours. Usually that's about a year's worth of shows, and never have to replace rod bearings.
So Paul, when I was growing up, man, Bigfoot was it, right? Yeah. It was Bigfoot and Gravedigger. Yeah. Seemed to be the trucks that you heard of the most. These things were flying high. If they crushed a few cars and maybe smashed through a van or something, it was like that was it. It was amazing. But it's come so far.
Yeah.
With the tricks and the things and the height and the distance and backflip. Talk a little bit about that evolution. And was there any pushback because of the evolution of the tricks? Maybe it seemed like they kind of wanted things to stay a certain way, and then things change. And maybe was it frowned upon? So just talk a little bit about the evolution of the tricks and the things that you guys are doing inside of Monster Jam and the other tours that you're doing.
Yeah. So I kind of have a unique perspective on that evolution. When I kind of took about 10 years off, like I said, when I started my construction company, And when I drove, it was big air, cyclone donuts, sky wheelies, slap wheelies, all that was the thing, I mean, Tom Mintz, he came barreling out of the tunnel and just sent his truck 70 feet in the air. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now?
Sure.
And
you top that.
yeah. So when I started seeing guys doing stoppies and moonwalks and sidewalls and all this thing, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is insane. Nobody ever thought of trying it, right? And I can guarantee you this, if I was driving for my stepdad back in the early 2000s and I would have ever stuck my truck into reverse while I was out there, I would have expected a hammer coming my way soon, right? And now it's like, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
You get up into a stoppie and you hit reverse and you moonwalk it back. And so that's, from a driver's perspective, that was the biggest challenge for me, getting back in a truck, because I'm used to hitting high gear and then I never touched the shifter again during an entire freestyle. And now it's, a lot of technical things and finding reverse and not park. And, we take the safety features off of our shifter. Usually you've got to pull a lever up to get it from neutral to reverse, and we have to take that off because you've got you want to get to reverse, you want to get there now. And so that's been really cool to watch. Just the different things that people can do that I never thought possible or never even dreamed of doing. And so each time a new trick comes out, Ryan Anderson, he does a lot of the new things, and then other people follow suit after that, but he's usually the first one to do a lot of different things. And when it happens, you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody else in the world think of trying this?
Sure.
And the same with backflips. I've done several backflips now at this point, but that would have never even been thought of before. And now to do it, it's insane.
Well, and it's almost kind of become like, you kind of want to see, like you're kind of expecting, is it going to happen? Are they going to do it? Is it going to be this run? And some do and some don't. Yeah. Do you see any evolution from that? Coming from the action sports world, same way with BMX and FMX. It was like, holy cow, the first backflip in FMX. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Now guys are doing doubles and nitro circuit, triple back, like absolutely insane. Do you see another level to what's happening now? I mean, can you foresee a little bit of that, or is it?
I mean, most definitely. Tom Mintz, he did a lot of the things with backflips and stoppies, and he evolved a lot of those different tricks. World Finals 2 years ago, he was in a stoppie to a moonwalk and turned it into a flip. And so there's always going to be another twist,
a little variation.
Yeah, a little variation, something else. He's attempted a few double backflips. I'm not sure if any of them have been landed and drove away, but that's coming. I mean, who knows?
But that's part of the excitement, right? But that's also what makes you want to buy a ticket to these events, because not only do you see these machines, and obviously the kids love them, and it's amazing. But even for, when we put on a Monster Truck Militia event and your trucks are there, we see a wide range of people that are in the crowd. It's not just families with kids, it's teenagers and guys in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Yeah. And you're like, they just want to come see these machines and the power. Yeah. And then what's next? What's that thing going to do? How's it going to work? And for us, where it is only Team Throttle Monster doing the Monster Truck Militia Tour, tell us a little bit about kind of the rivalry, right? You've got your in-house guys. They're all boys. They're all working together, building the trucks. But then they get to go out and kind of compete just against each other.
Yeah.
That's got to be a little bit fun for them.
Oh, yeah. It's fun for them, and it's even funner for me. Every now and then I come out of retirement a little bit. I'll go to a show.
Show these young bucks how it's done.
And if I beat one of them, there's nothing better, because it's like, what is wrong with you? I have been sitting on the couch for the last 8 months, and I just beat you.
You rub it in their face a little bit, yeah.
So there's a lot of that. Mike and I, when we ran together, it was always fun to mess with each other, and because when you learn to just calm down and not care who wins and not think about the other guy, that's when you do really well in racing. If you pull up to the line and you're thinking it all about the other person, and I tell the guys this all the time, I'm like, when you line up to that line, you're racing yourself. You want to run that course as fast as you can run it, and run it a little bit faster than you did before. And if you do that, you'll consistently win. You know, and Dalton Widener last year was the winningest racer in Arena Tour history. So we love racing, and you know, yeah, there's a lot of banter that goes back and forth.
Well, that right there is just maybe a good quote for life, right? Like, just worry about yourself.
Yes.
Do the best that you can do, 1% every day.
Yes.
And you'll get better, and good things will happen. All right, Paul, let's talk a little bit about what it takes and what are the steps. There's kids out there right now that come to your shows, to see these trucks, see you compete. You're a star. Your team, these guys are all, all looked up to. What advice could you give to the person that maybe one day wants to get inside a truck and drive for Team Throttle Monster?
You know, if it's a dream of yours, make it happen. You know, Dalton Widener, perfect example. You know, his mom, I saw his mom at World Finals last year, and you know, that's one of the first things that she said to me was when he was 4 years old or 5 years old, that was the first thing he wanted to be, was a monster truck driver. You know, Dalton went and played college football and did all that kind of stuff, you know, getting through college, but his heart was still on monster trucks. And so if you're dedicated and it's something that you want to do, we want you on our team. You know, that's the type of people we look for. You know, truly everybody on our team is like family. I mean, we live together, we work together, we, you know.
Sure. Fight.
Yeah. We eat
the good and the bad.
Yeah, we eat, drink, and breathe monster trucks, you know, and if that's something that, you know, you aspire to be, it just a lot of hard work and dedication. Get a hold of one of the independent teams. Doesn't necessarily need to be even our team. You know, there's a lot of good teams out there that are always looking for somebody to come on and start crewing. And, you know, I believe that it makes a way better driver if they understand how to take the truck apart, how to put it back together, how everything functions and why it functions that way. And then, you know, for instance, if you understand, you know, something as simple as rear steering, you know, there's nothing that's harder on rear steering than being on pavement and not moving and turning the rear steer. You'll burn up a lot of motors that way. But if you understand how the rear steer works and you've put a system together, then that's automatically ingrained in your mind that, you know, that's something you're not going to do. You're going to make sure you're moving when you steer you steer your truck and stuff like that. The other options out there, you know, Monster Jam University type thing, University of Northwestern Ohio, I think. And, you know, you can sign up for that and learn how to crew on a monster truck or drive a monster truck. And that's also another route that, you know, that you can go. It's probably a little harder to become a driver for Monster Jam, you know, simply because once people get there, they don't want to leave.
They don't want to leave.
You know?
Yeah.
So there might be an opening, you know, here and there, but yeah, that would be my advice is, you know, get a hold of independent teams, you know, volunteer at some of the local shows, you know, some of the fair shows and things that they do, and go check it out. See if it's what you like.
Well, yeah. I love it, man. I was a monster truck guy when I was young. Loved monster trucks. Yeah. I was a fan, and I've just become so much more of a fan. Spending time with you, of course, the team, putting on our own events, learning the ins and outs, everything from ticket sales to concessions, learning it all has been a lot of fun. And I know that we look forward to a very successful Monster Jam season with you guys, kind of tracking and following the story of Team Throttle Monster and all the guys and gals that are a part of the team. And then, of course, putting on our own shows. So super pumped about that, Paul, and excited for Monster Jam to start. You're ready to kick off. It seems like things are ready. You guys are ready? Do you feel ready?
Oh, yeah, things are ready. You know, we have some cool things coming up this year. We have 2 new bodies that we're going to debut, and later on this year, probably for World Finals. So, you know, be looking for that. And our team's growing. We still have big plans for the future. We're looking into opening up another shop on the East Coast and running a team out of there. And like I said, the sky's the limit. Dream big, win big.
I'm excited, man.
Yeah.
Last but not least, World Finals, Utah.
Yeah.
Your own backyard. You got to represent. There's no doubt about it. Tell us a little bit about that. Is that a cool? You compete all over. You've gone all over the world and done this.
Yeah.
But to have like the finals, which is like the big thing, the Super Bowl of monster trucks, right here in Utah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, for us especially, like you said, I mean, this is our hometown crowd, and there'll be a lot of people traveling in from all over the world. But there's just something about being at home and performing that just steps it up that one more level that you want to go out there and clean house. But last year World Finals was a great experience for us. Dalton, he qualified for the World Finals, and then Mike and Too Tall, they let 12 trucks compete in a racing series for the last chance qualifier, and Mike and Too Tall were in the finals of that. So both of our trucks that were in it were in the finals, and the only crappy part was only one of them could win.
To go. Yeah.
And so, Too Tall, he won that, and Mike was super excited for him and happy that, I'm sure he was a little bummed out that he lost, but he was really stoked that we had, a second truck qualifying in the World Finals. And I think there's only 6 independent trucks, and so we were two of them. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet.
And they both did really well. They both put on a good performance for our team, and we're looking to build on that this year. Yeah.
Well, we're excited, man. Probably a question you've been asked a million times, but do you have any tickets to the finals that I could get on that list?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I'll get a suite just for you.
All right, Paul. Well, listen, man, we know you're busy. You got a lot of things going on here at the shop. Once again, we're excited to kind of chronicle this and follow the team and be a part of it. We'll try to stay out of your way. Can't guarantee it. I don't want Mike to hear that. I might get a hammer, as you said, from flying at my head. But thanks again, man. Yeah. Looking forward to a great season, and Team Throttle Monster. Here we go.
Yeah. Likewise, we appreciate everything you do. Our partnership with Rockwell has been awesome. It's been great for the guys, and they all love wearing the gear. And you got a lot of new sunglasses and things coming out. And that's just, that's everything to us, because we don't get a lot of that stuff. Everybody thinks it's just all fortune and fame and rock star. But like I said, we're working all the time. When we have a good partner that can get us these cool Christmas gifts and nice swag to wear, it makes a difference.
We love you guys, and like I said earlier, we're fans, and we'll continue to support as long as you'll let us. So once again, thanks again, Paul, and really looking forward to it, man.
Appreciate
you,
brother. Thank you.
All right, so that's a wrap with Paul, but that doesn't mean we're done with all of the cool behind the scenes of what's happening with Team Throttle Monster, chronicling their journey, and looking forward to the finals here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So if you want to see more of what it takes to own a team and drive, stick around. We got a lot more coming up.